Following up on cooling systems, we talked about belts. Actually, we didn't really talk about belts. I told you to check the belt. I didn't really tell you what to look for. I just told you to check the belts. So I'm just going to show you a couple of different belts. This is a serpentine belt, very, very thin. Why is it so thin? What's the advantage of this thing being thin? Flexibility. The thinner your belt is, the more flexible it is. And serpentine belts, they tend to wrap around a lot of things. So we're going to go with something super flat, and by putting a lot of ribs in it, what makes a belt grip is its surface area. And so by having all these little grooves in it, if you add the surface area of all those grooves together, it would equal the surface area on a regular belt. But it's flat and it's super flexible. The more flexible it is, the longer it will last. So this belt would last longer than a regular belt. So what I'm going to do if I'm looking at it, first thing I want to look at is this backing. The backing on any belt is what gives it the strength. If you could put a cut in the back, it will break. That's everything about the strength of a belt is in its backing here. The underside, which is where you're looking for cracks, the cracks indicate that it's slipped and it's been hot, and that means it's not going to be as rubbery, it's not going to grip the metal as well, and you're going to start seeing more slippage. And so cracking under here is going to be reduced gripping pressure, and you're actually going to see that belt slip more. So this particular belt, I don't know that there's really anything wrong with it, so there's not much to see there. This is an example of a regular fan belt that you have. The backing on this one, when you look at it, it's got a big tear in it. What's the advantage or what's the purpose of having the notches on the outside of this belt? The notches on the outside are just to give it some flexibility. The outside is what's moving, and it's to give it flexibility. When you look at the difference between a smooth belt that's perfectly smooth, one that has notches on the outside, and one that has notches on the inside, basically it has to do with what's the turning radius. When you go around a pulley, I can go around a pretty tight pulley with this one. If I try to go around a pulley that tight with here, I've got to squish the rubber in. And every time you work that rubber, it works against itself and it causes it to deteriorate. And so most of the time when you order belts, you don't really have to deal with it. But if you have a choice between the two, this one's going to have more flexibility. If you have a belt that keeps wearing out really quickly, you might consider switching styles of belts. But that's what they're for. This one here, if you look at the underside, the rubber is pretty bad. It's cracked up pretty substantially. And the backing itself is starting to break. And so it's just a matter of time before this is going to come apart. I'm going to pass this belt around. This is supposed to be a regular flat belt, not just a regular V belt. And when you look at it, it doesn't like come down and then have a flat spot in the middle. It's worn so bad. But if you notice, the wear is on one side. There's one side that's wore a lot more than the other. When you go to replace that belt, you want to look at why. And it came off of this pulley. So I'll pass this pulley around, compare the pulley to the belt, see if you can figure out why we need to replace both of them. We'll let you look at it closer. This belt here is on a mower deck. It's what turns all the blades. It actually runs on two sides of the pulley. And so this one actually has a hex this way and a hex, so it's almost an octagon shape. Looking at this one, you can see that we've wore all the way down through the fiber on the outside and we're down into the rubber on the inside. Once I wear through this cloth covering here, I've worn through the strength of the belt and I've weakened the belt. And so it's a matter of time before it's going to actually stretch and actually break. So we replaced it. That belt came off of this pulley. And what I did is I took a pliers and I grabbed the pulley and I twisted it. And I broke the belt, or I broke the pulley off. And I did that for a reason. When you look at the pulley, or if I'm changing belts, whether it's on your cooling system on your engine or if it's on a mower deck, you want to look into the pulley itself. And a pulley is designed to have a V shape in it. When you look at this one, it goes down and then there's a little notch in there. That notch is the amount of distance that this pulley is actually worn. And when I've done it, when I broke this, it broke right by that notch, and you'll be able to see how thick the pulley is. If we had not replaced this pulley and we would have put a new belt on, in a very short period of time it would have wore all the way through the metal, and it would have just broke this ring off and the belt would have came off. Usually it creates a sharp edge there, cuts the belt, destroys that brand new belt. This is like a $100 pulley because of the special splines in there. So when you check a pulley or take a belt off because it's worn, look into the pulley itself and see how worn it is. Here's another one. When you look in there, you can actually put a straight edge in there from the top side to the bottom and see what the wear is. And you can't really measure it very well, but if you could measure it, pulley should look like this. What's happening is it's worn, and this is all gone. Two things are going to happen. One, the pulley or the belt itself, when you put the new belt on, the new belt is only going to contact right here and right down here. And so the new belt's going to wear very rapidly until it forms the shape of that pulley, which means I just destroyed my new belt, and as soon as it gets in there and slips, it's going to wear the pulley out even more until it does actually seat itself, and you've kind of defeated the purpose of changing it.